My name is Morgan, and at 34, I've spent the last 12 years grinding away as a senior financial analyst at Hartwell & Partners in downtown Chicago. While my younger sisters, Ashley and Christine, were busy building their white picket fence lives in the suburbs, I was pulling all-nighters, climbing that corporate ladder one spreadsheet at a time. Don't get me wrong, I love what I do. The challenge, the numbers, the satisfaction of closing a complex deal. But sometimes, when I'm alone in my Lincoln Park loft at 2 a.m, staring out at the city lights with a cold cup of coffee in my hand, I wonder if I traded too much for this corner office view. No husband. No kids. Just me, my MacBook, and a phone that won't stop buzzing with family emergencies that somehow always become my problem. It was a Thursday afternoon in late September when everything started. I was knee-deep in a quarterly report when my phone lit up with Ashley's face, that profile picture of her and her golden retriever that she refuses to update. I answered on speaker while highlighting a particularly troublesome column of numbers. "Hey, Morgs." Her voice had that sing-song quality she uses when she wants something. At 28, Ashley's always been the golden child, the one who could charm her way out of anything. "Got a sec?" "Sure, what's up?" I saved my work and minimized the window, giving her maybe 60% of my attention. "So, you know Mom's turning 65 in about 6 weeks, right?" She paused dramatically, like she was announcing the second coming. "Well, Chris and I have been planning something really special, and we're going to need everyone to pitch in." That got my full attention. "Okay, how much are we talking?" When she named the figure, I actually choked on my iced latte. It was more than I'd spent on my last vacation, which, if I'm being honest, was 3 years ago when I tagged along to that boring marketing conference in Austin. Wow, that's a lot." I know, Ashley rushed to add, her words tumbling over each other. "But it's for Mom, you know? She's been through so much this year with Dad's retirement and everything. She deserves something amazing." I was already pulling up my Chase app, fingers moving across the screen out of pure habit. "No, you're right. It's fine. I'll transfer it tonight." "You're the best." "Oh, and Morgan? One more thing, make sure you block out the whole week for the celebration. Like, don't schedule any client meetings or plan anything else. It's really, really important that you keep that time completely free." Something about the way she said it felt off, like there was a script she was reading from. But I brushed it aside. "Sure, no problem. I'll talk to my boss about taking that week off." After we hung up, I stared at my phone for a moment, trying to figure out why my gut was sending me warning signals. But then an email notification popped up about a client deadline, and Mom's birthday planning slipped to the back of my mind, buried under a mountain of work that never seemed to get smaller. The next few weeks vanished in a blur of conference calls and deadline sprints. Whenever I thought about asking Ashley what exactly they were planning with all that money, something always came up: a crisis at work, a late-night revision session, another fire that needed putting out. When I did manage to text her, I got vague responses about making it perfect and you'll see. Eventually, I stopped asking. Then came the Saturday dinner at my parents' place in Naperville. The whole family squeezed around that old oak dining table that Dad refuses to replace, even though one leg is shorter than the others and we have to shim it with folded napkins. Mom had made her famous pot roast with those little red potatoes I've loved since I was a kid. Dad was already 3 stories deep into his usual repertoire about the time he caught a 20-pound salmon in Lake Michigan. My sisters were there with their husbands, Greg and Travis. Uncle Raymond had driven in from Rockford with his kids, my cousins Jonah and Megan. The whole scene felt warm, familiar, safe. That's when Ashley dropped her bomb. "So," she said, pushing a piece of roast beef around her plate with this calculated casualness that should have been my first clue, "we finally got everything confirmed for Mom's birthday. We're all spending a week at Evergreen Mountain Resort up in Wisconsin." The table erupted. Mom literally gasped and put her hand over her heart. Dad was already talking about the fishing opportunities. Christine and her husband were Googling hiking trails on their phones. Uncle Raymond was asking about the golf course. "Wait, hold on," I said, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. "Nobody told me we were going to a resort. I don't even have the right clothes for that. When exactly is this happening?" The chatter died like someone had hit a mute button. Mom cleared her throat, and I felt my stomach drop before she even opened her mouth, that particular throat clear that always precedes a favor I can't refuse. "Actually, sweetheart," she said in that syrupy voice that makes my teeth hurt, We were hoping you could do us all a huge favor and stay back to watch the kids while we're there. I looked around the table, waiting for someone to laugh, to tell me this was some kind of weird joke they'd all planned. But nobody was laughing. They were all just waiting. Waiting for me to say yes like I always did. You want me to babysit? The words came out flat, emotionless. All of them. My brain automatically started counting. Ashley's 3-year-old, Cooper. Christine's baby, Emma. Jonah's twin girls, Riley and Madison. Megan's 2 boys, Carson and Wyatt. 6 kids. 6 kids under the age of 8, for an entire week. Well, you're just so natural with them, Mom said, like this explained everything. They absolutely adore their Aunt Morgan. I scanned every face at that table, searching for someone who saw how insane this was. But all I found were expectant smiles, like they were waiting for me to accept an honor, not a sentence. But that's not fair, I heard myself say, my voice sounding strange, distant. I want to celebrate with everyone too. It's Mom's birthday. Christine, practical, organized Christine, put down her fork with this long-suffering sigh that made me want to throw my wine in her face. Come on, Morgan. You'd probably be bored anyway. It's going to be all family activities and kids running around everywhere. Super chaotic. Bored? I repeated slowly. How would you know if I'd be bored? Look, she continued, shooting meaningful glances at Ashley, you're incredible with the kids. They love you. And let's be honest, it's not like you need a break from family life like the rest of us do. My chest tightened. What's that supposed to mean? Ashley jumped in with that condescending tone she's perfected over the years, the one that makes me feel like I'm 12 again. She just means you don't have a husband or children to get away from. The rest of us, we need this break. You understand, right? The pot roast on my plate went blurry. I blinked hard, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. Instead, I pushed back my chair, the scraping sound impossibly loud in the silence, and stood up. Morgan, Mom's voice had a note of concern in it, but not enough to actually stop what was happening. Not enough to tell my sisters they were out of line. I grabbed my purse from the counter and headed for the door. Nobody moved. Nobody called out. Nobody stood up and said, "Wait, this isn't right." The only sound that followed me out was Mom's voice drifting from the dining room. "Don't worry, she'll be upset at first, but she'll come around. She always does." I sat in my car in their driveway for a solid 10 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Through the window, I could see them all still sitting around the table, already back to their animated conversations about hiking trails and s'mores. Like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't just told me I didn't matter enough to include in a trip I'd helped pay for. The drive back to Chicago felt like swimming through fog. I kept replaying the dinner over and over, but this time, I was seeing things I'd missed before. The way Ashley and Christine had exchanged those knowing looks. How Uncle Raymond had suddenly become very interested in his mashed potatoes when the babysitting came up. The practiced way Mom had delivered her lines. They'd planned this. All of it. I spent that entire night pacing my loft, and for the first time in years, I really looked at my life. Not the pretty Instagram version, the real one. And what I saw made me sick. I remembered being 16, making dinner every night while Mom helped Ashley with her college prep because Ashley's SATs are so important. Morgan, you understand. I was 21 when I turned down that summer internship with Goldman Sachs in New York, an internship that could have changed my career trajectory, because Mom and Dad wanted to take their anniversary trip to Hawaii and someone needs to watch Christine. I was 24 when I worked 2 jobs to help pay for Ashley's wedding because they'd gone over budget and family helps family. The memories kept flooding back, each one taking on this ugly new color in the harsh light of reality. Every time Ashley called, "Morgs, can you watch Cooper for a few hours? I'm dying here." Every time Christine texted, "Emergency. Can you take Emma for the weekend? Travis and I desperately need couple time." Every family gathering where I ended up in the kitchen doing dishes while everyone else watched football in the living room. I'd been so proud of being reliable. Responsible. The one everyone could count on. But what I actually was. A doormat with a paycheck. I collapsed on my couch around 3 in the morning, exhausted but too angry to sleep. The photo albums on my coffee table caught my eye, those expensive leather-bound ones Mom had given us all last Christmas. I flipped through them mechanically. Family beach trips where I was always behind the camera. Thanksgiving dinners where I was always missing from the photos because I was busy carving the turkey. Christmas mornings where I was the one assembling all the kids' complicated toys while everyone else opened presents. When was the last time someone had asked what I wanted? It's not like you need a break from family life. Ashley's words echoed in my head, taking on a crueler edge each time I heard them. As if my life, my career, my achievements, my choices, meant nothing because they didn't fit into their narrow definition of what mattered. As if all those years of sacrifice, all those times I'd put them first, were worthless because I didn't have a husband and kids to show for it. Sleep finally came around dawn, but it was fitful, full of dreams where I was running through endless hallways, trying to find a door that led somewhere other than someone else's. Sunday morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a clarity I'd never felt before. I'd spent 34 years being the person everyone else needed me to be. Maybe it was time to try being the person I needed me to be. I'm not a confrontational person. Never have been. Even in negotiations at work, I'm the one who finds the middle ground, who makes everyone happy. So my first instinct was to fix this peacefully, to find a solution that would work for everyone. I waited until 10, a reasonable hour, before calling Mom. She answered on the fourth ring. "Hi, Mom." I kept my voice level, professional almost. "I've been thinking about the resort trip, and I have a solution. I'll hire a professional nanny service to watch all 6 kids. That way, everyone can enjoy the celebration together, including me." The silence on the other end stretched so long I checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. "That won't work, Morgan." Mom's voice was sharp, clipped. "We can't just leave the children with some stranger. They're used to you. They trust you." "Mom, I want to celebrate your birthday too. I want to be there. I can find someone really qualified, someone with childcare certifications, background checks, excellent references. We could even do video calls so." "You know you're not exactly a social butterfly," she cut me off, and the coldness in her voice shocked me. "You'd probably feel uncomfortable with all the noise and activities anyway. The children will keep you busy, and you love spending time with them. It's perfect for everyone." "But Mom..." Click. She'd hung up on me. My own mother had hung up on me mid-sentence. I sat there staring at my phone, her words replaying in my head. Perfect for everyone. Everyone except me, apparently. I didn't even rate as part of everyone. 10 minutes later, my phone exploded with Ashley's call. "How dare you?" she screamed before I could even say hello. "Mom just told me about your little nanny suggestion. Are you trying to sabotage everything?" "Sabotage? I'm trying to find a solution where I can actually." "We already have a solution." Her voice went up an octave. "Everything's planned, Morgan. Everything. The reservations are made, the activities are booked, and now you're being completely selfish, trying to change everyone's arrangements at the last minute." The accusation hit like a slap. I'm being selfish. Yes. We've been planning this for weeks. Everyone's excited. And now you want to ruin it because you can't just do this one thing for the family. One thing? Are you serious right now? You know what? Ashley's voice dropped to something cold and mean. If you ruin this trip for everyone, if you spoil Mom's birthday, don't bother calling me again. I mean it, Morgan. We're done. The line went dead. Before I could process what had just happened, texts started flooding in from Christine. Family means helping each other. Remember when I picked up your prescription last month when you were sick? You're good with kids. They love you. Why can't you just stop being resentful and think about what's best for the family? My fingers were shaking as I typed back, a real family doesn't manipulate each other. A real family includes everyone in their plans. A real family doesn't take someone's money and time without even asking. I watched those 3 dots appear and disappear for a full minute. No response came. That's when it all clicked into place like a puzzle I'd been too close to see. The way they'd asked for money without explaining the details. How they told me to take time off but never mentioned where we'd be going. The careful staging of that dinner announcement, after everything was already set in stone. They'd planned this from the beginning. While I was working 60-hour weeks, while I was babysitting their kids for free, while I was being the perfect sister and daughter, they were secretly plotting a vacation that specifically excluded me. They'd used my money. Controlled my schedule. and assumed I'd just fall in line with their plans like the good little doormat I'd always been. And now that I wasn't playing along? They were pulling out every manipulation tactic in the book: guilt, threats, emotional blackmail. Something shifted inside me. Not anger anymore, something colder, clearer. I opened my laptop and started typing a destination into Google. Within 2 hours, I had booked myself a week at a beachfront resort in Cancun. Nothing crazy expensive, but it had a private balcony overlooking the Caribbean and was all-inclusive. I even splurged on first-class tickets. After all, I had plenty of money now, money that wouldn't be spent at Evergreen Mountain Resort. The next few days at work were bizarrely peaceful. My family had gone radio silent. They probably thought I was home sulking, maybe panic buying activity books and snacks for 6 kids, mentally preparing myself for a week of diaper changes and temper tantrums. The thought made me smile as I packed my new sundresses and that red bikini I'd bought on impulse but never worn. Cancun in October, my colleague Derek asked when he saw me checking the weather forecast on my phone. That's random. Sometimes you need to do something spontaneous, I replied, and I was surprised by how good it felt to say those words out loud. The morning of my flight, I did one last walkthrough of my loft. Everything was clean, organized, force of habit, I guess. The fridge was empty. Plants watered. Windows locked. Everything perfect, just like always. Except this time, I wouldn't be here to answer desperate babysitting calls. As my plane lifted off from a hair, I switched my phone to airplane mode and then powered it off completely. No social media. No email. No family guilt trips. Just me, the beach, and 7 days of absolute freedom. The Mexican sun hit me like a blessing when I stepped out of the Cancun airport. Palm trees lined the highway, and the air smelled like salt and freedom. My resort was even better than the photos. The balcony had a perfect view of the turquoise water, and I could hear waves lapping at the shore. That first afternoon, I walked barefoot on the beach, letting the warm sand mold around my toes. When was the last time I'd done this? When was the last time I'd done anything just for myself, without checking if someone needed me? I swam in water so clear I could see my toes. I read a thriller novel from cover to cover without a single interruption. I had dinner at a beachfront restaurant where nobody needed me to cut their food or wipe their face. I watched the sunset from my balcony with a frozen margarita, and there wasn't a bedtime routine or morning carpool in sight. For 6 glorious days, I existed only for myself. I took a salsa dancing lesson. I went snorkeling with sea turtles. I ate fresh mango for breakfast and fell asleep to the sound of waves every single night. I talked to other travelers, actually had adult conversations about books and travel and life that didn't revolve around potty training or school enrollment. My last morning in Cancun, I sat on my balcony watching the sunrise, savoring those final moments of peace. I knew I'd have to turn my phone back on eventually, face whatever chaos waited for me back home. But I hadn't expected quite what I found. When my phone finally powered up, it started vibrating so violently it nearly jumped off the table. Messages, voicemails, missed calls, hundreds of them. The timestamp showed they'd started exactly 1 week ago, at 7:30 in the morning. My hands trembled as I started scrolling. The first message was from Ashley, sent at 7:32 a.m. Where are you? We're outside your building. Then Christine at 7:45, Morgan, open the door. The kids are getting cranky. Uncle Raymond at 7:50, hey, we brought the twins like we discussed. You home? Megan at 8:05, Morgan, what's going on? Carson and Wyatt keep asking for Auntie Morgan. I could picture it perfectly. My sisters and cousins standing outside my building with 6 confused kids, their suitcases packed for the resort, their carefully laid plans crumbling around them. The messages shifted quickly from confusion to panic. This isn't funny. Where are you? Pick up your phone. What are we supposed to do with all these kids? You can't just disappear like this. Then came the anger. Ashley's messages turned vicious. You selfish bitch. How could you do this to us? Christine wasn't much better. I can't believe how immature you are. Mom's birthday is ruined because of you. Uncle Raymond, who I'd always thought was the reasonable one, sent messages that made me wince. The language he used. The names he called me. Mom's messages started later in the day. I'm so disappointed in you, Morgan. I never thought you'd be this selfish after everything we've done for you. Dad, who rarely texted anyone, had sent just one message: "Your mother is crying. I hope you're proud of yourself." The voicemails were worse. I could hear the anger vibrating in their voices, the disbelief, the accusations. Then came messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in months: aunts, uncles, distant cousins, all of them condemning me. "You've always been so responsible. How could you do this? Those poor children. What kind of person are you? You've ruined everything. What kind of daughter treats her mother like this on her birthday?" I sat there in my peaceful resort room, still wearing yesterday's sundress, reading message after message, learning exactly what my family thought of me when I finally stopped being useful. The words they used, the names they called me, the assumptions they made about my character. It was like meeting strangers who happened to share my DNA. Without responding to any of them, I packed my bags and headed to the airport. Time to go home. But I wasn't the same Morgan who'd left a week ago. That Morgan might have apologized, might have felt guilty, might have tried to make it right. That Morgan was gone. I'd barely finished unpacking when the aggressive pounding started on my front door. Before I could even cross my living room, I heard a key turning in the lock, the emergency key I'd given Mom years ago just in case. They burst in like a SWAT team, Mom in front, Christine and Ashley flanking her, all three of them red-faced and wild-eyed. The peace I'd cultivated in Mexico evaporated instantly. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Ashley screamed, stepping into my space. "You ruined everything. Everything." I stood my ground, watching them unleash their fury in my living room, the same living room where I'd babysat their kids countless times, where I'd cancelled my own plans for their emergencies, where I'd always been the reliable one. Greg and Travis both suddenly had important business trips they couldn't cancel. Christine spat out, her face twisted with rage. "So I had to stay home with all 6 kids while everyone else went to the resort. I missed Mom's entire birthday because of you." "The whole trip was ruined," Ashley added, her voice shaking. "Nobody could enjoy themselves. All we did was talk about how you betrayed us." Mom jumped in, her voice rising. "All we did was talk about you, about what you did. Your father couldn't even enjoy the ziplining. He was so upset." They kept going, talking over each other, each one trying to outdo the others in expressing their disappointment. The more they talked, the more absurd it all seemed, until something inside me just broke. But not in the way they expected. I started laughing. The sound cut through their tirade like a knife. They stopped mid-sentence, staring at me like I'd lost my mind. "What's so funny?" Mom demanded, her face flushing darker. "What could possibly be funny about this?" I wiped tears of laughter from my eyes. "Don't you see how ridiculous this is? You planned an entire vacation without me, used my money, told me to take time off work, and just assumed I'd be fine watching 6 kids while you all celebrated. And now you're mad that your plan fell apart." "But you've always helped before," Mom said, her voice smaller now, confused. "You've never said no." "And that's exactly the problem," I said, my laughter fading. "Because I always helped, you started taking me for granted. You stopped seeing me as your daughter and started seeing me as free childcare. You stopped considering my feelings, my plans, my life." "That's not true," Ashley protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "Really?" I raised an eyebrow. "Then why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't you ask if I wanted to go to the resort? Why did you just assume I'd be happy staying behind?" I watched their faces, hoping to see some recognition, some understanding. Instead, their expressions hardened. "You're being selfish," Mom said coldly. "You've ruined my birthday. You've hurt your sisters. You've disappointed everyone. This isn't how I raised you." I felt something inside me go still and quiet. "No, Mom. You're the ones being selfish. This whole situation is your fault, not mine." Mom drew herself up to her full height. "If that's how you feel, then maybe I don't have a daughter named Morgan anymore." "If that's what you want, Mom," I said quietly, "then I guess that's how it is." They left without another word, and I changed the locks the next day. It's been 2 months since that final confrontation. 2 months of silence broken only by the occasional passive-aggressive social media post. "Some people only care about themselves," Mom wrote last week, with dozens of sympathetic comments from people who only know her version of the story. "Family should always come first," Ashley posted with a picture of Cooper, pointedly not tagging me. Christine's latest was a long rant about toxic people who destroy family bonds with their selfishness. A few months ago, these posts would have destroyed me. I would have spent hours composing responses in my head, losing sleep, wondering if maybe they were right. Now, I scroll past them, sometimes with a small smile. I've changed my life. Instead of spending weekends on babysitting standby, I joined a running club. Last Saturday, I did a 10K along the lakefront, and it felt amazing. I've started taking Italian lessons because I'm planning a trip to Rome in the spring, a trip I booked without checking anyone else's schedule. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about my nieces and nephews. I miss them. But I don't miss being used as a weapon against myself. Maybe someday, when they're older, they'll understand. Maybe they'll recognize the same patterns in their own lives and choose differently. I still have that emergency key Mom used that last day. I should probably mail it back, but something stops me each time I think about it. Maybe part of me hopes that one day they'll understand. That they'll realize family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself to meet everyone else's needs. But I'm not waiting for that day. I'm not putting my life on hold anymore. Yesterday, I removed myself from the family group chat. I didn't announce it or explain myself. I just quietly removed one more obligation, one more source of stress. Some might call this selfish. My family certainly does. But I've learned there's a difference between being selfish and having self-respect. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is step away from people who can't see your worth beyond what you can do for them. I'm Morgan. I'm 34 years old. I have a career I've built from nothing, a beautiful loft in the city, and for the first time in my adult life, I have something else, freedom. And I'm never giving that up again.